So pitching roles, we've had hitting roles the last couple years, but this year we decided to add some pitching roles. So the thought behind your pitching role is that all of you guys can be really effective for us in making a staff, like a complete pitching staff, but there's different roles based off of what your strengths are. And we want you guys to know, just like with hitting, we want you to know what your strengths are and then what role you can take on that will help out the team and help out yourself the most. Does that make sense?
Both.
We don't want somebody who's throwing 38 miles an hour trying to be a power pitcher. We don't want our power pitchers, we don't want Zayden throwing 80% change-ups. That wouldn't make sense. So we want you guys to find a role and then know, okay, this is what role I can fill to help the team, and then this is how I'm going to practice it and stuff. So here we go. Looking at the different groups. So there's 5 different groups. The first one we're going to look at are the gassers. The gassers are the guys that throw hard. They're throwing 63 plus. And you can see the velo up there. It says 63 plus. I can use this as my pointer stick. 63 plus. They throw hard. They have a second pitch that may need development. So that means that they're primarily fastball guys. Their secondary pitch needs a little bit more work before it's going to be, more reliable and steady in games. So somebody that fits that is Zayden. Zayden's going to be throwing probably 80% plus fastballs. His off-speed pitches, they don't need to be great, but obviously it would help if it is. He's had some days where it's great, other days where it's a little bit wild. So it just means for Zayden, he's fitting that gas role. He throws gas. He's going to try dominating teams with fastball. Still working on his off-speed pitch. But he doesn't need 4 pitches. He needs to develop the second pitch. Make sense? So like when we're throwing our stuff here, maybe instead of going fastball, curveball, cutter, changeup for your blocking windups, it's just fastball, curveball. You can mess around with that and get feedback from Coach Nick, obviously. Mixers, those are guys that might throw a little bit slower. They don't have to necessarily, but they throw a little bit slower. They still throw firm. They're 58 plus, and their second pitch is reliable. Those guys would be Max and Eli and Carson.
Where's Gavin and Corbin?
Just wait. So Max and Carson both throw 58 plus. Their second pitch is pretty reliable. They're going to be mixing it up. So they're looking for around a 70-30 mix of fastball versus off speed. That means like 70% fastball, 30% off speed. Their bread and butter is still fastball, but that's kind of what we're looking at for them. Spinners are guys that throw less than 58. So for those guys, they need to have one really good off-speed pitch. Less than 58 is not slow, but in order to be really effective, you got to be able to have a good off-speed pitch that you can throw about half the time. That's a lot of off-speed pitches. Those guys would be Bryce, Gavin, Caden. Gavin had a sensational year last year. Outside of one particular pitcher that we had, he might have been the number 2 last year. And he didn't throw as hard as some other guys, but he had a great year. And he did that mostly by throwing a really good curveball a lot, and for a lot of strikes. So Bryce and Caden and Gavin are going to be those guys that are looking to do that. So throw a lot of off-speed pitches. All 3 of those guys can have good curveballs. At times, they're very good. It's just being more consistent with them. The stoppers, those are guys that throw hard, but they don't have great stamina or might not be throwing as many innings. That would be Eli that would fit that role right now. Eli throws pretty firm, but he catches a lot. Probably won't be throwing a lot of innings, but if he can come in for like 1 or 2 innings and have hopefully a 2-pitch mix. He doesn't need a full 4-pitch arsenal. If he can throw a fastball, curveball, that's great. Fastball, cutter, that'd be great. Fastball, changeup would be fine too. So a 2-pitch mix. Eaters are guys throwing like under 54. Those are guys that can throw a fastball for a lot of strikes, but the velo and or breaking ball are still developing. So those guys would be like Cole, Levi, Nico. They can touch some higher velos, but they're not going to be guys that are going to like give us a ton of innings in like what's called like a high leverage spot. But they're important because we need them to be able to hold leads for us and eat up innings. So if we're up by 6 in a tournament and we don't want to burn up, let's say Carson in a game where we're up by 6, can Cole come in, throw a lot of strikes, mix in some breaking balls, and protect that lead, and we win by 3 or 4 or something? That's his role. Levi, same thing. Nico, same thing. So for those guys, it's really important to throw a lot of strikes. If we can start developing that secondary pitch to be able to keep teams off balance, that's going to help us out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Cole? And you're the only eater. It's here. So those are guys that can eat up innings. And if we have all those guys excelling in these roles, we got 3 guys that we can throw in games where we have big leads and they can hold them. We've got a guy that can come in for an inning and hold down the other team like a closer. We've got 3 spinners that can come in, throw a ton of off-speed pitches, be really effective, especially against guys that are really aggressive, which usually better hitters are. We've got a couple guys that can throw hard, mixing and some breaking balls, and then we got Zayden who's just pumping gas by people. If we have all those different guys working those different roles, we'll have really good pitching staff. Does that make sense? Corbin and Gavin Lewis, I'll have you guys up here because I want you guys to just focus on throwing mechanics. Right now, like throwing mechanics, because you haven't had as much development as some of the other guys, for you guys it's like learning to throw the ball the right way, like nail down some of those mechanics. And then once you start nailing those things down, then we get you on the mound. That's kind of where like some of these guys have been in the past. Now they're throwing pretty good. Cole used to not throw very hard. Now he throws pretty hard
When I joined that team, I threw like 45.
on a good day. And he used to throw balls off the side of the nets and off the rafters. Now he's right around strike zone a lot. His curveball used to be non-existent. Now he's got a pretty good curveball. So just take some development for that kind of stuff.
You're bashing.
Okay, I'm not bashing on him. That's called development. That's what development is.
Yeah.
It means you start off at a certain spot and then you get better and better and better. I'm actually complimenting him. It's a credit to Cole and the work that he's done.
Thank you.
Any questions on that stuff though? Okay. The next thing we're going to look at, 2-strike hitting. I made this little thing that for the kids yesterday, so you guys didn't see it.
You should.
But just to kind of reiterate what it means, like when we're shifting our target with 2 strikes. So for a righty, with 2 strikes, I want you aiming right there, like over the head of the second baseman where he typically plays. Not trying to hit far, but low line drive over the second baseman's head. That's like a 10-degree launch angle on average.
Cody,
We want lower launch angles when we hit the ball opposite field. Does that make sense?
Cody.
Now to clarify, because I could see the last couple times when we hit, we struggled with this concept. When we're working on our 2-strike approach, just because we're aiming for right there doesn't mean it's bad to hit the ball there. If it's an off-speed pitch, I would expect you to pull it a little bit and go that gap. But even a fastball, if it's a fastball in and you identify it, sure, catch out front and pull it. Does that make sense? If it's a fastball down the middle and you identify it well, take it more up the middle or left center. But the idea, the approach, meaning before I enter the box, in my mind, I'm setting my sights opposite field gap. Does that make sense? Or the shortstop's head as lefty over the righties, or over the second baseman's head as righty. That's where I'm setting my sights. From there, I'm going to react. What that looks like in the batting cage is I'm throwing you fastballs away, we're driving the ball the other way. I throw you a fastball middle in, do your best to react to it. Get the bat out front if you can, but if you can't, hopefully you can at least fight something off up the middle or the opposite field. Does that make sense? Okay, so when we do our competition today, hitting, I don't want to hear you ask the question, do I have to hit the ball at the opposite field? What would be the answer?
No.
No, you don't. That's where you're setting your sights before you step into the box. It's the opposite field gap. It's an off-speed pitch. Stay through the ball the best you can. Definitely find pull the off-speed pitch. But the fastball, we really don't want to be like out front on a fastball. That's the idea there. Okay.
Who won the game? Rangers?
That's a good question.
That's Cody Bellinger
Oh,
and
no.
Valdez Garcia.
But that looks like,
I think.
aren't those sweet umpire cams?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I freeze framed them right there. So like these were outside pitches. Because like when you see a pitch going that way, they were both close to being strikes. He ended up swinging and missing.
With.
He ended up getting a base hit. But like when you see a pitch kind of heading out like that, boom, instantly in your mind, that's where your target is. Okay.
No, it's not. It's
It
real
looks like the show.
That's real life.
That was real life, yeah. That's the
That looks
umpire's
like
cam.
the show.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder
Oh,
if being an umpire is
Oh, it is?
scary.
It is.
I would be scared.
Aw.
I'm scared. Especially because they throw so hard.
Yeah, and if you blink, you might get fired.
Yeah.
If you blink and like Oh shoot.
Still.
Or like, or
Yeah,
call
I
to
get
the
it,
first, or you're the first base umpire.
I don't know.
If you're the first base umpire, the guy calls. What do you think? I blanked.
I wouldn't want to be behind the
Well,
plate.
they wouldn't
Oh.
say.
Oh,
They
this is
would
the
like
same
probably
thing.
call it a strike.
That's because you go so fast.
Okay,
Whoa.
you each get one of the building your 2-strike approach handouts. You guys are going to be creating this over the next 2-3 minutes real quickly. I want you to use pencil if possible. I don't know how many pencils I have, but you're going to put a little check mark. You're going to put little check marks for those different boxes that you're going to commit to. That means that you're going to work on it today in practice. After practice, we're going to stop maybe 2-3 minutes early, and then you're going to revise it and make some check marks on like, okay, this didn't feel very good. Next practice, I'm going to test this out. The idea is that I want each of you to build your 2K approach, or 2-strike approach. 2K meaning 2-strike.
No, I don't. Never mind.
I like this.